What's going on, guys? So a while back I asked what kind of video you guys would want to see, and I was surprised to see that the most liked comment on the type of video you'd want to see is actually a video on the character of Silat, or Silat. Look, I don't know how to pronounce his actual name. You guys know I'm horrible with names. I always just call him Silat. So if that's not your cup of tea during this video and that's going to annoy your ears, you could click away now. I really apologize. But anyways, I'm going to talk about Silat here on this video. Now, Silat is a character that overall I kind of feel a little bit bad for, and let me tell you what I mean. Because Silat, though being an incredibly skilled martial artist and warrior, well-versed in many different type of weapons and different scenarios that he's put himself in, as well being a very intelligent fighter, knowing when to back off and knowing when to keep his distance, and being constantly surrounded by four tapasa, which I always call the Bakuraka bodybuilders because they are massive and sort of serve as his bodyguards, even with all of this, he still is constantly shown up at every turn, and it's not really his fault. He just kind of constantly falls backwards into situations with characters that have crazy demonic powers and whatnot, or with Guts himself. But I actually find there to be a common thread between Silat and Guts, and I feel like that is the ties to their own humanity. And with Silat, it has to do a little bit more with honor, whereas Guts, it's more of a, hey, I'm going to do this myself kind of thing. I don't need your help. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to keep surviving. And that's sort of like what keeps him going. But with Silat, I feel like it's a lot more to do with this sort of honor and heritage that he has of being a Bakuraka, being from the Kushan, and sort of presenting himself as that, between his fighting style, between his methods and everything, and between the way that he originally looked down on other people from Midland and whatnot because of his superiority that he felt from his own kind of race and nationality. I'm not saying Silat is racist, I'm just saying he has a lot of pride for where he comes from, and he wants to be able to showcase that to other people that might sort of look down on him for him being a different color and from being a different area and whatnot. So I actually think Silat's introduction is really, really good for him as a character because he's playing in this sort of tournament-like games area, which I always thought was really cool and something Berserk only did this one time. I realize Berserk doesn't really have a lot of opportunity to kind of branch out and do things like this, but with the fact that Guts entered a tournament where people are like showcasing their strength by lifting boulders and doing archery and doing like one-to-one combat and everything, I thought that was really cool, and I would love to see like a little side story of that. But anyways, I really like this segment. It's a great way to introduce Guts after the original time skip, and it introduces Silat as this sort of beginning stages of Miura sort of sprinkling the idea that, yeah, there are more nations out there. We're not just stuck in Midland is not the entire planet. Like, there's other places out there with people that are very different in terms of their combat skills, in terms of their nationality, in terms of everything that they have going on for themselves. So Silat comes in and he's basically kicking everybody's ass. And when he goes up to fight against Guts, this is the problem, because Guts is Guts, and there's no way in hell that Silat is going to be able to beat him despite all of the fancy technique that he has. But we get to see the beginning stages of the different styles of the Bakuraka. And I remember when the Bakuraka was first introduced, the proper Bakuraka, not just Silat himself, during the rescue mission to go get Griffith, we saw that they had basically manipulated their bodies in different ways to suit their skills, whether that was making themselves really lanky so they could latch on to the cavern walls and whatnot. Somebody's very short that was using the blow darts and other things like that. So they sort of used their bodies as a way to harness particular skills. And Silat keeps himself very slender, he's very slim, and with that he has a lot of weapons that kind of help showcase this, like with the claws that he has, the hidden blades, the chakrams that he would throw around, and those ribbon urumi blades. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but definitely showcasing very, very different types of skill. Now, Guts is very different in his style too, because he's the only person dragging around a giant motherfucking sword. But even seeing something like that, it didn't scare Silat off. He had such confidence in who he was, where he came from, and his abilities, that he thought he could take Guts on one-on-one. And in the tournament, he failed. And then later on, when he was hired to track down the Band of the Hawk, as they were fugitives at the time, he comes face to face with Guts again. And this time he really did try to kill him. He really fought all out, and he was defeated and had to retreat with his men. And unlike being a character like, let's say, Zondark, he doesn't take this loss as somebody saying, oh, now I'm going to be even more evil than I was before. I'm going to take down the Black Swordsman. There's no way I can let this defeat stand. I will be victorious. Instead, Silat actually learns from this experience, and as he moves forward, he becomes a smarter fighter, which shows you he does value that honor and discipline above his own egoic mind, whereas he's not taking this as a personal insult, and he's not taking this as something to vow revenge against. He's taking this as a learning experience that, hey, wait, there actually is stronger people out there. Maybe I should be a little bit more cautious, and maybe I shouldn't think so lightly of these Midland people. And wondering where to fit Silat into the story, I think he is actually used sort of as a vessel to kind of show the different stages of the world and everything that is happening in Berserk as time goes on. Because he always finds himself in these situations where he's sort of witnessing the next big event, but sort of biding his time, taking it all in, and trying to decide how he's actually going to respond to all of this. I know a lot of people talk about his growing experience, that the first time we see him after his defeat of Guts, where he sees Guts again from a distance, after Guts took on a bunch of Kushan scouts, that he tells his men to stand back, because even if he thinks that ultimately they could defeat Guts, he knows that they would have casualties along the way, even with 4 of the Bakuraka bodybuilders and himself in the fray. So it shows Silat is a lot more tactical and doesn't really throw himself into the midst of battle the same way that Guts would, per se. Now, I said there are similarities between Guts and Silat as it comes to them sort of valuing their humanity, but when it comes to their fighting style and being a tactician, they are very different. And again, I'm not saying Guts isn't tactical when he fights, but he's willing to kind of walk right into the circumstance and say, here I am, let's do this. Whereas Silat sort of stays in the background and sort of analyzes all of his possible options before choosing a particular route. I think one of the biggest developments that we get for Silat is during the Millennium Empire arc, where he finds out the truth about Ganishka, finding out that the leader of the Kushan themselves is actually an apostle, and witnessing the barbaric methods that apostle would apply to create his Docker soldiers, and all of the other horrors surrounding Ganishka himself. Now, Silat was also shown this by the Apostle Raxus, who supposedly was also a Bakuraka or a member of the Kushan before becoming an apostle. So this sort of adds insult to injury, where not only are you fighting against a former member of the Bakuraka, but that former member, or the fallen member rather, is the one that shows you the truth about the emperor that you're following. So I feel like that would be a very big sort of blow to the pride that you would have for your homeland and for the Kushan in general, because not only are you fighting against somebody that left, or at least was exiled, but now you're realizing that the emperor that you followed, that you sort of felt a little bit off about, that he was doing maybe some weird things behind the scenes. We didn't realize it would be that weird. But now you're realizing the horrors of what he actually is, and that he's not even a Kushan anymore. Anyways, he is an apostle, or a demon of some sort. But the other thing that is great about Silat is, unlike a lot of the other Kushan who went and joined up with Griffith and his cause and creating the way to build Falconia and everything, I really like that Silat decided not to. And this is where I feel like Silat falls a lot in line with Guts, is because he values his humanity over the demonic entities that are above him, whether it be in power and skill and whatnot. And like I said, Silat was always sort of in these situations where he's constantly put face to face with people that are more powerful than him, whether it's Guts to begin with, whether it was Griffith, whether it was Ganishka. He's always sort of paired up in these situations where he is not the strongest. So he has to constantly adapt and understand how to face these threats that are higher and higher above him. But even understanding all of this, even seeing all of these sort of godlike, demonic, amazing, powerful creatures and what they are able to employ, even able to become a giant Shiva of destruction or create a paradise of Falconia, seeing either side of that, Silat still decides to remain true to himself and not fall in line with any of these false idols or prophets, and instead the value of his own humanity, staying human, and of the original Kushan and the Bakuraka is still strong enough to keep him him. He's not giving over his will or his allegiance to anybody. He's not bowing before Griffith like other people would. There's very few people that are immune to the thrall that Griffith has on other people, and even though Silat might not have been face to face with Griffith, maybe he never had an actual conversation with him, but it's interesting to me how many people will just bow at the feet of Griffith himself, the White Hawk, but Silat is able to walk away. Even Rickert, who we see walk away before, he at least knows the backstory and he knows what Griffith did to accomplish this power. Silat doesn't know the secrets behind what made Griffith this Griffith, but he still decides not to follow him. And I think that's very honorable of him and something that's very different from a lot of the other characters, even the Kushan characters themselves. So Silat's sort of this observer slash outlier of everything that's gone on in the Berserk world. And I think that's the thing that makes him such an interesting character to so many people, is because Silat stays very true to himself through every single arc of Berserk, as other characters have a ton of development. I mean, Silat does have development too, but he stays very much Silat. You know, he's not constantly wavering back and forth between all of these different personalities and styles. He kind of pops up in particular scenes and moments as everything in the world is changing of Berserk, but he's still remaining pure himself, Silat. Nothing can shake his resolve, and I think that's the thing that gravitates a lot of people towards him. For me, he's not one of my favorite characters or anything, but when I do think about everything that this series has done and all of the scenes where Silat has been shown, I do definitely respect and admire the fact that he is able to stay as true to himself as he has, where so many characters have given up their own will in order to either follow Griffith or to wish for a savior or anything, and Silat is very much a do-it-yourself kind of guy. And that's how I feel, again, that he kind of relates towards Guts. Now, the last time we saw Silat, he was actually teaming up with Ricker in Falconia, fighting against Roxas once again, and they actually managed to escape with Daiba, who used to be the head mage for Ganishka himself, so he's another Kushan member, but has this respect for nature and magic and his style of magic and everything. So I think him and Silat could have a lot of interesting back and forth between them, considering he was very much loyal to Ganishka, as Silat wasn't technically once he found out that he was an apostle. And putting Silat together with Ricker, I think, is a very cool idea, because if you think about their two different styles of combat, imagine combining them together. So Silat, like I said, he's this lanky guy with all of these strange, unique weapons, these blades, these whips, the projectile weapons that he throws, the chakrams and everything like that. Think of all his unique skills, weaponry, and martial arts. Now combine that with Rickert's ability to blacksmith these sort of crazy contraptions like multiple repeating crossbows and arm cannons, and even a freaking bazooka. Rickert has this crazy blacksmith, maybe steampunk style ability to create all these unique different weapons for people. So imagine the custom weapons that Rickert would be able to make for Silat. Silat himself already, with his style and weapons, was able to go toe-to-toe with Raxus. He didn't completely dominate the fight or anything like that, but he was able to fight against him and even crack his mask open. So now imagine Silat with enhanced weaponry from Rickert. This could be one of the craziest things we've ever seen in Berserk. Besides Guts' arm cannon and crossbow bolts, the things that Rickert would be able to make for Silat, I can't even imagine them. I don't even have an idea. I just know that it could be potentially amazing to see. There's a lot of theories about where we're going to see Silat go next. I know there's a potential time skip coming up that will age up Rickert a little bit. It would also age Silat. Now, he's not an old person per se. He's probably around Guts' age. So he's probably early to mid-20s. It's also really weird to think that Guts is only in his mid-20s, considering he looks like he's in his mid to late 30s with everything that he's gone through, and also that chiseled jawline. I mean, come on. But even with an age up, Silat's still going to be near his prime and able to fight as well as he could before, I'm sure. And I'm sure he's doing plenty of training while Rickert and him are kind of collaborating ideas, learning the truth about Griffith. He's going to know everything because Rickert knows everything, so he's going to know all about the eclipse and whatnot. So next time he even encounters Guts, I think they're going to definitely be allies, because Silat will, one, he'll know everything about the backstory about what happened because Rickert's going to tell him, and also, I mean, they're going to have a common enemy in Griffith. So it's going to be great to see if Guts winds up in Falconia and needs some backup, and then you have Rickert and Silat and Daiba flying in on a giant frickin' pterodactyl with crazy new badass weapons, and Silat with a new resolve, even greater than before, to team up with Guts and to defeat this God Hand menace that has enslaved the world through kindness. But anyways, guys, that's sort of my overall opinions on Silat. I do think he's a great character. I think that where he's placed in the story really puts into perspective the changing of the worldscape as far as Berserk goes. And I also like how he learns and grows as a fighter, but yet still stays true to himself and has been true to himself throughout the entire series, and holds on to that pride and honor of what the Bakuraka used to represent. So let me know what you guys think about Silat down below. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I also want to throw a shout out to my Patreon supporter, Adam Jinrakai, who is actually making his own manga, which looks really, really cool. It's a shonen style manga called Jinrakai, Savior of the Universe. It goes for a real sort of 90s shonen vibe, so you get that classic vibe going on with it in the story and in the artwork, and it's got a sci-fi edge to it, which I think is really cool. It's a space opera, and all of the art and coloring is done by him as well as the story. The main character is a human from Earth named Bit that finds out he might be the legendary Jinrakai. Born with the powers of the North Star, he's going to have to try to save the cosmos from King Yenu. And of course, he gathers a ragtag group of individuals, and they travel across the galaxy trying to figure out how to get to the North Star, with various battles along the way, hopefully able to become Savior of the Universe, with lots of crazy twists and turns along the way. Also, I have to shout out how frequently that he uploads chapters. He does at least 3 chapters a month, each chapter being 20 pages long. And remember, this is one person working on this manga by themselves, doing the entire story, doing the artwork and coloring, releasing 3 chapters a month. That is a crazy level of dedication and passion for the project, and it is that alone that I like to promote artists as well. I believe in artists supporting artists, and plus he supported me first, so I definitely want to give a shout out to him as well and support back. I'll showcase some of the art on screen here as well. Down in the description below, you will have a link that will go directly to the web manga itself and the Instagram link as well if you want to follow him. The manga is, again, Jinrakai, Savior of the Universe, with a very 90s shonen style to it. Great artwork, great story. I think you guys will really like it. I think it's a fun ride. And hey, we got a lot of time in between Berserk chapters. You may as well check out another manga, and you may as well help support fellow artists as well. So check that out. All links will be in the description down below. Go read it, go follow them, tell them what you think about it. Other than that, guys, I appreciate you watching this video. I really do. Thank you so much. You guys said you wanted to hear my opinions about Silat, and so here you are. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Comment down below all your thoughts about Silat himself and what you think he means for the story of Berserk. Subscribe if you want to stick around and see more content. Other than that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. Check out that manga I told you about, and I'll talk to you next time.